Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be with all of you because I know that some of you have been hearing about a couple of my colleagues, not the ones that showed up today, but the ones that have made news by showing how ignorant they are. We have a colleague running, he's done so well in the House, he's running for the Senate, and Todd Akin is the one who made the statement about legitimate rape and illegitimate rape, and how women conceive and become pregnant. And you've also been hearing about another colleague, Paul Ryan, who agrees with Todd Akin. This kind of ignorance is what I've been listening to day after day in Washington, D.C. The ignorance is not that they don't know, it's just they don't want to know. They think that science is just the same as another political opinion. And therefore, they oppose efforts to deal with greenhouse gas control and global warming and climate change. My colleagues have told me, and most Republicans have voted, that there's no such thing as global warming, if you can believe it. But that doesn't stop them there, because when we were doing the legislation for AIDS, which became the Ryan White Act, and which pays for the drugs for those people who are HIV positive, may have AIDS as well, and thank God it's not a death sentence as it was when we first looked at that issue. We had people who couldn't understand that if we said to people that you ought to use a condom, or you shouldn't exchange needles when you're using drugs, and if we said that to them, they said, well, that would only encourage people to engage in gay sex or use drugs. And we went through and said, let's look at the evidence. The evidence is if you do these things that will stop the transmission of the HIV virus, it will keep that disease from moving on to other people. But they couldn't conceive of the science in that instance any more than they can conceive of the science that there's such a thing as global warming. And when we dealt with sex education, we have a federal program. We give money for sex education in the schools. And we said sex education ought to be comprehensive. If you want to talk about abstinence, go ahead and talk about abstinence. But don't believe because you talk about abstinence, people are not going to engage in sex. And yet the Republicans and even a few Democrats said, no, we shouldn't have a program that explains all these issues. The program should be abstinence only until marriage. Well, I hear some chuckles. What does that mean if you're gay? Yeah. And then we say the answer to that is not to be able to get married. So there's a tremendous amount of blockage of the thinking of people in power in Washington today. Thank goodness we have on our ballot in California, we have President Obama. He deserves our vote for re-election. We have Senator Feinstein, who deserves our vote for re-election. And for those of you that live in my district, I hope you believe that I deserve to be re-elected as well. It really is quite remarkable what President Obama has done. I sometimes think that he's like Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln would not come out clearly and unequivocally against slavery because he knew he had to lead the country and move slowly on the issue. But he got there and brought the country with him. President Obama has done the same thing. Stop the don't ask, don't tell in the military. He said that we're not going to defend the DOMA law in the courts because he thinks it's unconstitutional. He has prohibited discrimination against students for actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity. He's lifted the ban for people coming into this country who are HIV positive, which allowed us, for the first time in 25 years, to have an international conference on HIV and AIDS, which we had a couple of weeks ago. Imagine a ban on people who have HIV from coming into this country, even if they're coming here to go to an international conference on the disease. The President deserves our support. He deserves our support, just as he has finally come out to give support for same-sex marriage. But I am here for a very special purpose, and that is to give the award for the last honoree of your heroes. And the awardee is a heroine, if you allow me to make a distinction. And that heroine is Senator Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein has a record of firsts. She was the first woman to be the president of the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, the first woman to be mayor of the city of San Francisco. She was the first woman to get elected to the Senate of the United States from California, shortly to be joined by Senator Boxer. She has been out there on all the issues. She deserves this Lifetime Achievement Award. She voted against DOMA. She voted to stop discrimination in employment. She was a co-sponsor of the Student Non-Discrimination Act of 2011. She's just been there on everything, and she deserves the award. She deserves the award, and I'm honored to present it to her. But, unfortunately, she isn't here to accept it because I think she thinks that too many women have come forward to receive this award. So she's asked that I present it to her aide, Trevor Daley, because she wants a male to receive this award on her behalf. So let me call Trevor Daley forward to receive the award for Dianne Feinstein. It's our lifetime honoree. This is something you don't want to know.